It's time now for the latest news on what's hot and what's not in the world of technology with Matthew Dickerson on Tech Talk. Here on TCFM 88.9.
And we know what that jingle means. It means that Matthew Dickerson is here in the studio with me. How are you, Matthew?
Good, thanks. Look, I'm really disappointed, actually. I think you should turn your microphone a bit early. You're singing your way to live it up there, and maybe you just bring that microphone a bit early. You can let the listeners hear that voice that you're pumping out there.
I don't think I'd subject the listeners to that. They don't deserve to be tortured with my singing voice. It's early in the day, Matthew. But look, yes,
well, you were living it up.
I was living it up. I love mental as anything, and I think it's some good words to live by. Now, Matthew, I was talking to you when you first came in. We'll get into this tech talk with fleeceware apps. Now, I'm not sure if you listeners out there know what fleeceware apps, but Matthew's about to talk to you about it, and I think you might want to listen. Matthew, tell me.
Australia is number one in a few things across the world, but we are number one in being fleeced by fleeceware apps. We've had 10 million downloads of fleeceware apps. We've cost ourselves $9.9 million. And what they are apps that you put on your phone. You just think, oh, that's all right, I'll just try that trial period. Or it might even be something where you just say, I'm happy with that amount they're going to charge me, $5 a week, $5 a month, whatever it might be. But very sneakily, behind the scenes, they start charging you a lot more. Either the trial period expires, they don't tell you about it, they don't warn you about it. Next thing you know, you see your bank statement and you go, oh, where's all that money gone? Why did I pay all that amount out? The number one fleeceware app at the moment is Fortune Scope, a palm reader and horoscope app. Now, some people are being charged $3,500 a year to have their palm read or their fortune told. Now, hopefully, if they actually had a good fortune app there to say, don't download fleeceware apps like this one,
yes.
But I don't think it gives you that advice on there.
No.
There's a dating app called Flame, for example. Now, it does actually say up front that you'll be paying $119.99 for that app. And so if you're comfortable with that for an annual subscription to a dating app, that's fine. But if you don't do much on it and you don't pay attention to what's happening, you can end up paying $500-600 per year for that particular app. So there's lots of examples of those apps. And I suppose the main message here really is just have a look at those terms and conditions. You're not going to waste all your time reading those terms and conditions, but have a glance. And if it's a trial period, just maybe stick a note in your calendar on your phone to say, right, check in 7 days, I've gotten rid of this app if I don't want to keep paying for it.
Exactly.
And in the app themselves, that's where you'll often find that it'll be, click on this for this extra feature. Have a good look at those extra features, because often that extra feature comes with some dollars attached to it. And I did talk to one parent who said that his son was playing a particular game and he was having a great time. It's a great game, Dad.
And it was doing the same thing?
He was doing the same thing every time. He was getting extra lives or he was getting extra goes at the particular game. He was being charged every time. So the parent got the credit card statement and went, holy truth, what was that game you were playing?
And it can be as simple as just pressing a button. You know, want another spin, press the button and it charges you straight away.
You're saying you're talking from experience then.
No, no, look, we've been given this spiel. I know we got it in school and even in university. They do tell us about these apps, more of those kind of ones with the games and all that sort of stuff. But tell me, with those apps, do you need to be using them every day and really accessing them all the time for it to be charging you? Or
sometimes the opposite. Sometimes by not using it, you install the trial, you play with it now, it's not much of an app, and you forget to uninstall it, and then by it just sitting in the background, it can go through a certain period of time. Yeah, so it can be either way. It can be when you're using it, just getting, as you say, that extra spin, or not doing anything with it. So it's really just being aware of it and just checking some of the reviews. When you go to download those apps, or any app, it's just have a quick look at the reviews. And if you've got one that's been stinging people, you'll often see those in some of those reviews. So I suppose it's just being aware of these sorts of things. There are some people out there, I know this might be hard for some of your age to believe, but there are some dishonest people out there.
No.
And they don't do the right thing. Yeah, I know, it's terrible.
That can't be. Look, I'm a pessimist, so I can easily believe that.
Right.
And yeah, having read about this information with fleeceware apps, I did go and onto my phone and uninstall the apps that I no longer use, the ones that I thought, oh, this sounds cool, and did give me a free trial period. And I thought, it's probably no longer free anymore. So, folks, I would check that. The next one that I really wanted to talk to you about, now, I love movies, and I love those scenes. I know there's one in, it's a Nicolas Cage movie, A National Treasure, where he's going through and they take a photo of him and the tech guru zooms in on the photo and it becomes crystal clear. Now tell me, is this real?
Look, again, I don't want to burst a bubble here, but I think what happens in the movie sometimes isn't real. It's not based on real life. Because I'd love to be that nerd that comes in with the thick glasses and the pen's in my top pocket and click the magical enhance button and it fixes it. But that actually is a real thing now. Adobe have released a new version or a new feature in their Photoshop product that is super resolution. And it will enhance the resolution of any photo by 4 times, so it'll quadruple the resolution. Normally what happens when you blow up a photo, make it bigger, it just becomes grainier.
Pixelated
Exactly
and
right.
yeah,
Because all
blurry.
it does typically is it takes each pixel and makes each pixel bigger. So it doesn't really achieve much. Sure, it makes it a bit bigger, but it doesn't actually enhance the resolution.
Yeah.
But we've got some pretty clever AI and some pretty clever computers, or powerful computers now, that will actually, rather than just enhance the image by making it bigger, will actually say, well, there's that pixel. Between those two, I'm going to make some calculated estimations and I'm going to fill in with some extra pixels. So what it actually does do is it increases the number of pixels in a photo, trying to retain the resolution of that photo rather than just make it bigger.
Yeah, exactly.
And the real issue here is you take some old photos, and I've got photo frames on our wall, like electronic photo frames on our walls, and some of the photos of kids when they're very young, the cameras weren't that great, they were maybe 2 megapixel or 6 megapixel, and you put it on a 4K TV on the wall as you're scrolling through your photos, they do look a bit grainy and pixelated. So a 4K TV, for example, you have anything below a 6 megapixel photo, including 6 megapixels, that's not enough pixels to fill the whole screen. So automatically that TV is going to enlarge that image and pixelate it. But this sort of technology can take those old photos and actually make them almost as good as a real photo.
Oh,
Now,
it's
not gonna
music to
perform
my
miracles. I know.
ears, isn't it?
But it's not going to perform miracles. It's not going to take this terrible old smudgy photo of your grandmother and then make it a perfect 4K photo.
No.
But it's going to certainly improve whatever you've got there, which is fantastic.
And I suppose a lot of people at the moment, and with technology going the way it is, they are digitalising their old photos and their photo albums, they're scanning them, and this kind of technology would be fantastic to maintain that quality and those memories, of
That's
course.
right. I can't believe how much it's changed, even just when I've got photos of my kids when they were young, that's only 20 years ago. And now, comparing them to the camera technology now, you go, oh, that photo looks terrible. But at the time, it was some fantastic camera that I was using to take photos.
True, and hey, we never had Snapchat back then.
No.
And we never had those filters that makes everything look shiny and beautiful. But now we've got technology to maintain quality, so
Exactly.
we're light years ahead.
Absolutely.
I think we have time for another quick question. I wanted to talk to you, obviously COVID-19 is still happening, it's still a thing, and I think it's quite interesting, the global shortage of computer chips, does this have anything to do with COVID?
Well, it does have a little bit to do with COVID, but there's been a few things. It's a bit of a perfect storm. They're calling it Chipageddon. So there is this worldwide shortage on chips, and that's having an impact on a whole range of things, but it's been caused by COVID has actually increased demand for a lot of these products. So things like computers, things like home entertainment, there's increased demand, so more chips are needed.
Because everyone's spending more time at home, working
Exactly
from
right,
home.
Yep. And you've also had across the world, not just here in Australia, but across the world, you've had some significant fires in places that actually produce some of these chips. You've had some droughts. You've had some, well, even just the Ever Given stuck in the canal, in the Suez Canal.
Yeah,
Things like
exactly.
that. So there's been a few things like that. There's been this perfect storm. But where it's impacted the most is actually really interesting. Sure, you might think TVs, you might think computers, even smartphones, but it's actually cars that have been hit the most. And you don't think of a computer chip and a car being necessarily so closely related.
No.
But there's about a 6-month delay on a lot of new cars coming out at the moment because they can make the car, but they can't put the chips in them. And when you think about a modern car, you've got a chip in the engine, you've got a chip in the entertainment system, you've got a chip in your cruise control, your lane assist. There are so many chips used in a modern car. But you've got places like Ford who have said they're going to lose $2.5 billion this year because they just can't get the stock out the doors. Nissan have said they've basically shut down some of their factories, like reduced their shifts. VW have laid off 10,000 workers at the moment because there's no point them producing a car and sitting there built, ready to go, except we just need those couple of chips to plug
Of
in.
course, yeah. And you've got a couple of workers sitting around twiddling their thumbs going, what next?
Yeah, and they just wouldn't have the room to store these cars. Normally they'd produce the cars and then
Ship 'em
be
out.
on the dock and ship them out.
Yeah.
Whereas now they're sitting there going, we just need to plug a couple of chips in there, so leave them there and then we'll run out of room to put all these cars. So it is
Massive
actually having
halt to
impact.
production that would be.
Yeah, and so there are actually some examples of fairly new second-hand vehicles getting more than the new equivalent because they can get it now. So people are buying, say, Land Cruisers, for example. A recent model Land Cruiser with not too many Ks on the clock is worth more than a brand new one because you can go and buy that second-hand one now, brand new one, you might have to wait 6 months for that. So it's fascinating because, it's not the first thing you think of when you think of a computer chip.
No, it's not. And what you said about waiting 6 months, we don't like to wait these days, do we?
No.
If it's not instant, it's not worth it.
Exactly right, yeah.
Thanks for coming and talking to me, Matthew. It's been
pleasure.
good, and I've learned some things. And I think if we're taking one thing away from this, folks, it is go and check your mobile phones for any uninstalled apps that have been sitting there for a little too long. Girls, if you have a fortune-telling app on there, please check it. Having said that, see you next week, Matthew.
Thank you.
All right, it is 25 to 10 here at DCFM 88.9.